Hey everybody, welcome back to this 6th video in our series on working with the Obsidian Tasks community plugin. If you are new here, don't worry, I will put a link if you're watching on YouTube in a little card above me, or wherever you happen to be watching this, I will put it in the description or the text that comes along with it, links to all of the other videos in this entire series so that you can find exactly what you need about the Obsidian Tasks community plugin. We are almost done with about 5 videos, I think, in total from this series on the anatomy of a task, all of the different pieces and parts of a task that you can use in the Obsidian Task Community plugin. Today, we're going to be looking at recurrence. We're going to be looking at how to create recurring tasks and how to manage and use recurring tasks effectively. Recurrence is a really important part of any task management system. In his wonderful book, The Rhythms of Productivity, my good friend RJ Nestor talks about recognizing recurrence and its importance to your overall system. The more often we can recognize that something recurs and that we then only have to capture it once and capture the rules for recurrence and hopefully put all the things that we need to deal with that task every time together is a really important, what RJ calls, bridge to productivity. So for instance, one of the recurring tasks, I'm recording this in February, and one of the recurring tasks that's a top of mind right now is doing my taxes. Well, I have all sorts of checklists and things that when I pull up my Do Your Taxes project are already built for me because I've recognized the recurrence of things that happen every single year. And so I don't have to rethink through those things every year. I can simply reuse that same thinking that I've been doing for probably about the last decade now and streamline my tax preparation so that it doesn't take anywhere near as long as it did in the early years. So that's the importance of recognizing opportunities for recurrence. Today, though, we're going to be really focusing on how do you make tasks recur in the Obsidian Tasks community plugin, and how do you manage recurring tasks effectively. So let's head over to the Obsidian Vault that we have been using throughout this series to look at how tasks recur in Obsidian and how to manage recurring tasks. I have a task here that looks very similar to some of the others that I have created throughout this series. And it says that this task recurs every day without a due date. Now, I can create a task without a date on it that recurs in Obsidian using the inline tasks creation option. So let me just walk you through that. Oops. There we go. This task recurs once a week without a due date. So if I type recurring and then I just select every week, it looks like that will work. The challenge is if I check this task off, it gets a completed date assigned to it based on the settings that I have in the vault, but what week is this for? So officially, you can create these tasks inline, but you don't want to do that. You actually always want to create a due date for these tasks. So let's look at the ways that we can do that. The first way that we can do that is using that inline tasks option. So this task recurs once a week, and I'm going to give it a due date. I'm going to make it due tomorrow, and then I'm going to say that it recurs, and I'm going to give it every week. So now what will happen if I check off this task as done? Watch the date here. All right, so I'm going to check it off as done. Not only did the task get checked off as done and the completed date got set to today, but a new task 1 week from today, or 1 week from the due date, gets created for me. Since I completed it early, it gets completed 1 week from that due date, which is an important thing to know about how these work. We're going to dive into all of those every rules and how all of those work later on in the video. There's a second way to create tasks that recur, and that's using the create edit task modal. These are the same ways we've been using in other videos in the series. So I'm going to open up that modal. I have the hotkey of Command T set to open that modal. You may do it with the command palette. Either way is fine. I just like the hotkey because it makes it a little faster for me. So I'm going to use this demo task that Obsidian includes for us, which is to take out the trash. So I'm going to type that in. And this recurs every Friday. Now, I've got a valid recurrence rule here. Every Friday is a valid recurrence rule, but it's still in red and it says, hey, you've got to add one of these other dates to it. You only have to add one, but you've got to add at least one of them. So this is going to be today, because today happens to be Friday where I live, or as I'm recording this, so we have to take out the trash today. So I'm going to hit apply, and that task gets added for me now with that recurrence rule set. And notice here the difference. So this says every week on Friday, and this just says every week. Okay, so the difference is that when I check this off for today, it is no matter what going to be on a Friday. So let's see what happens when we create one that is due every Saturday, but I complete it on Friday. So I'm just going to complete a task. This is due every Saturday, and I'm going to recur every Saturday. And notice as I start to type every and for Saturday, it says, hey, do you really mean every week on Saturday? Yes, thank you very much, Obsidian Task plugin. I do. So we will give that a due date. This has a due date of tomorrow because that is Saturday. So watch what happens here. Again, today is Friday. So February 13th is today. If I check this off, it gets a completed date of today, but notice that it jumped ahead a whole week to Saturday, a whole week from that date, not from the completed date. So it's going to keep it always happening for us on Saturday. And this is one of the rules that I want you to think about, or one of the guidelines I want you to think about as you're building your task management system, which we're getting that just 2 more videos on building it, which is you want to be as specific as you need to in your system to keep those recurrence rules working properly. Now, a lot of our tasks don't recur just on a every weekly basis or something like that. Our recycling is a really good example of that here. So here in my neighborhood, our recycling actually happens every other week, not every week like our trash. So we can actually create that as well. And I'm going to do it with the inline task creator. You could also do this though the same way with the create edit task modal. I just like the inline task creator. So if I'm going to take out the recycling, it recurs again, and this one is every 2 weeks, and it says on Wednesday. I actually want it on Friday. There we go. And then it's going to be due, it's going to start next week in 7 days. And so you can use natural language like that to actually type out a date, and that is the correct date because it's a week from today. And then that is created for us. So this will actually keep my recycling schedule and my trash schedule in the right lineup, and I don't have to do any more management of it, which is really, really valuable for me. You can do the same thing of using like every 3 weeks, every 3 months, every other year. I have a couple of things that are only have to be done every 2 years, usually with insurance or something like that. And so I can set all of those up in my Obsidian vault, and I don't have to worry about them because I know that they will come back around to me whenever I need to use those items again. As we talked about in one of the last videos in the series, most of the ways that we're going to work with our tasks though are not on the individual pages that our tasks live on, or at least not the way I work with my tasks. You're going to build the system that works for you. We're going to talk about that in a couple of videos. But I usually work with my tasks in queries. And so I've talked a little bit about a video that I have planned near the end of the series on backstopping your task management system. But I thought it might be a good idea to just show you one of the examples of that that can be really helpful when you are working with recurring tasks in your Obsidian Vault. So, as I just mentioned, recurring tasks have to have a date, either a due, start, or scheduled date in them. And so I have created this query here. I'm going to go ahead and show it. And this query does a couple of things for us. So first of all, it continues to demonstrate this good behavior we have of making sure that we have documented our tasks using the comment function, which is this pound sign here at the beginning, a little space, and then all of the text of my comment. And then I have actually commented out this line is recurring. So right now, what this query is showing me is all tasks that are not done that don't have a start, scheduled, or due date. So if I look at these are all the things that I haven't done yet that don't have a date on them. That's a lot of stuff, which is what happens when you're playing in a vault like this one, doing videos like this. But I can just add in this line for is recurring, or in this case, I can remove the comment header for it, and I can actually get a list of all of my recurring tasks in my vault that have no start date, no schedule date, or no due date. So you can see I've got these different tasks here that I've been creating on different pages to sort of play around with them, and I can then go and fix them. And remember, as we talked about in the video on queries, there are a couple of ways that you can edit tasks. I can either click the edit task button here if that is showing, or I can go back to the actual page that that query is on, or that task lives on. So let's actually just edit this task right here. So I update YNAB, and I do this this actually happens every day, and it's going to be due tomorrow because I already did it for today. And so I hit apply, and now that's actually a valid task. So notice it disappeared off of this list. I have update YNAB in here a couple of times because I use it a lot. Now, this one right down here, update easy expense for the week, every week on Friday. This looks like it's okay. Let's go look at it on the My Tasks page. It doesn't have a date, so it has every week on Friday, and it is due. It's actually not due, it's due in a week because I already did it for today, so I don't need to do it again. So there we go. That task is now created properly using that. And if I go back, that one has now actually disappeared out of my query list. So this can be a good query to have in your vault to backstop you. I have this exact query actually set up in my vault, and then I have a task on my tasks management page, which I'll show you in a later video, that just reminds me to check this. I usually check it on Thursdays for whatever reason. That was the day I decided to assign it to, and every week on Thursday I check that list to make sure there's nothing in it, and if there is, I fix it, because as we're entering in tasks, that can happen to us. And again, we're going to talk through all sorts of ways to backstop your task management system in that coming video. So we've looked at some different ways to create and edit our tasks. We've looked at a way to backstop our task management system to make sure that we don't have any recurring tasks that are falling through the cracks. And now we really want to focus on working with our recurring tasks in queries and on pages. And so to do that, I've got a page set up here for working with recurring tasks. And first of all, I actually want to remind you about the on completion option that is not available in the create edit task modal. It's only available in the inline completion. So let me show you how to create a task with that option in it. Whoops, task. And this is to write the budget report. Maybe this is something I have to do. Due date on Friday, and it repeats every week on Friday. I'll just type that. There we go. And I'm going to add this option to on completion. So I just started typing the word on, and then when I do on completion, I get two options. One is to delete, one is to keep. Now, as we talked in the video when we first introduced this, keep is the default behavior. So adding on completion keep is really redundant. You don't need it. But on completion delete will make sure that when you complete that task, it'll actually delete. So let's watch what happens here. When I hit complete on this task, it is gone. And now my new task for doing this for next week is here. So you might be thinking, well, when do I know which one to use? It is absolutely a matter of personal preference. Let's look at an example of this on a page. So I have a task here to feed Kona, my dog, every day. I don't actually have a task on this in my system because it's habitual. And if I forget to feed him, he will remind me. He's got a very good alarm clock inside of him. So I am going to go ahead and check this off. This is just this query that I have here is just to find all tasks that are not done and are due today. So that's all it's looking for. This is a task that's due today. I'm going to check it off and it's gone. But then let's look at the impact of that on a page. When I come over to this page to be a good dog mom to Kona, which is the page that I have in my actual vault where all of the tasks related to making sure that he gets his annual exam and his meds every month and all of those things, where I have that, if I actually had this task on here every single day and I came over to that page could be really, really long, and I don't really need to see this. So this feed the dog task might actually be a good one for me to think about doing that on completion, delete on it. I can go ahead and add that to the task here. So on completion, delete. And now if I check this off, don't worry, buddy, I will feed you tomorrow. Notice that it did not add the 214 task here. Okay, so this is now deleting those tasks after I complete them, which can be a really good option. And remember, that option is only available to you in the inline task editor. There is no option when you use the create edit task modal to do on completion delete. That does not exist in that option, at least not yet. So there's one other option for you to think about here as you're setting up your tasks, and that's how you want tasks to display if you do want to keep that list of tasks. So I'm going to remove this on completion option from this task. So now it's set up just like it was before, and I'm just going to check it off a couple more times so that you can sort of see what's happening. As I'm checking it off, that new version is getting created right under it. So essentially the new one is coming up on top and everything's just basically getting pushed down. So it always keeps the one that you need to do at the top of the list. This is the default behavior in Obsidian tasks, but there is an option in your task settings. I'm going to open up settings here with Command comma on my Mac. And you could also do it with Command Palette or Command P or Control P if you're on Windows. And I have the community plugin setting for tasks selected here. And I'm going to go down here. There are two different options in the tasks community plugin for recurrence. And just a reminder from our previous videos, your plugin may look a little bit different than mine based on the different settings that we've set and those sorts of things. So again, this is all personal preference kind of stuff. So this first option here will control how the next recurrence appears. So if I change this so that the next occurrence appears on the line below, remember, if this doesn't work as you expect, it's often a good idea to restart Obsidian. Anytime you make a change to a plugin, I'm pretty sure this is going to work the way I expect it to because I was testing it just before, but if it doesn't, we will restart. So remember, what was happening is when I was checking these off, the completed version was getting added below and the new version was getting added above. Now with that setting changed, if I check it off, notice the completed version goes up and the new version gets added in the middle. What is now the middle because I had all these other completed tasks. So it's really just a matter of personal preference, whether you want those tasks to go below or whether you want them to go above. And again, you can set that via the Obsidian Tasks community plugin. There's one other setting that you can set with the Tasks plugin, and that is to remove the scheduled date. So I have this task here to do my meal planning for the coming week, and it has a start date, it has a due date, and it has a scheduled date. And right now I have the Task Community plugin set at the default so that if I check this off, all of those dates are basically going to go forward one more week. So if I check that off, everything got added and everything goes forward one more week. But let's say in your workflow, you don't want this scheduled date. So we're focusing just on the scheduled date right now. You don't want that to get added because basically you want your tasks that you need to get done for the week to get added, but then maybe you want to go set the scheduling date as a part of your weekly scheduling routine or whatever that might be. And we're going to talk about designing those systems in 2 more videos. So let's go ahead and go into our settings again. And again, scroll down to where the recurring task option are. And there's also this remove scheduled date on recurrence option. So if I check this now and I check this off, again, watch this scheduled date here. Okay. Notice that this new version does not have a scheduled date in it. So now if I wanted to assign a scheduled date, I would have to do that as a part of some other task management routine that I have set up in my system. And again, we'll talk all about those different workflows and routines in a couple more videos. But before we get to that, we've got one more video on the anatomy of tasks, and that is on the very light project management system that you can create with Obsidian using its dependencies feature. So I will be back with that in our next video. See you guys soon.